Named one of the Wall Street Journal's 10 best places to go in 2025, Traverse City is northern Michigan magic. Think sparkling blue waters, golden dunes, and of course, incredible food. This summer marks the debut of the Traverse City Food and Wine Festival, running August 20th through 24th. The event highlights both national and local chefs including Tyler Florence, Ji-Hae Kim, Mei Lin, and Kate Williams, and features ticketed dinners, a grand tasting tent, and wine tasting. Visit traversityfoodandwine.com for details.
Hey, podcast listeners. I'm Chris Morocco, food director of Bon Appetit and Epicurious, and host of the Dinner SOS podcast. Each week on the show, we bring the expertise of the Bon Appetit test kitchen to your kitchen. And this season, we've got a little something for everyone. We're debating whether spring produce is actually worth all the hype, solving your hosting anxieties, and helping you become a better baker with our BA Bake Club episodes on Dinner SOS.
It is so exciting to be a baker in the city right now. It's so exciting to be a bakery owner in the city right now. I think the community is just keeps growing, and everyone says New York is so competitive, and of course it is, but being influenced by others and learning from others is also amazing.
This is Taste. I'm your host, Eliza Barbanel. Kelly Mencin is the pastry chef and co-owner of Radio Bakery, a cult-followed destination for filled croissants and focaccia sandwiches with 2 locations in Brooklyn. Radio's offerings and the lines are legendary. Today on the show, Kelly talks about opening Rolos, transitioning to radio, and their continued efforts to try and meet demand. Kelly Mencin, this is Taste. Thank you for coming on the podcast.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
I'm really happy to have you in the studio. I think Radio Bakery is such a force in New York's baking and pastry scene, and it's just really fun for me to get to ask you all about it. I guess to start, I'm wondering if you could just give me a little bit of insight into who you are and how you grew up, and share an early food memory that you might have.
Yeah, an early food memory. So I have a very distinct memory of growing up, and my grandma Lou on my dad's side, we used to make petitsa. It's a Slovenian nut roll. Every Easter and Christmas, we would make it together, fresh dough, grind walnuts in this old school nut grinder. Very cool. But I remember we had this huge wooden table in the kitchen, and we would roll and stretch the dough out to the whole length of the table, and fill it with these fresh nuts and zest and raisins. And it has stuck with me for so long. And it's a really great memory.
I'm imagining just a huge table full of dough and all these delicious things. Was that one of the first times you were doing kind of production baking at scale?
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't even I guess you could say it was at scale, because it was a big recipe. We would make a lot. I think that is probably the first time, that we made a lot of one thing. I mean, other memories are just smaller baking things. I mean, I was a big fan of Martha Stewart and Martha Stewart magazine. And I remember my cousin was getting married, and my mom and I threw a tea shower for her. Basically, I made little tea sandwiches straight out of Martha Stewart magazine, and I loved it. I loved every minute of it.
That's so cute. And I think it's so interesting that the memory you're sharing is a pastry memory. I know that your culinary background, you were doing savory and things like that as well. I'm wondering if you could tell me a little bit about that culinary background, and maybe what drew you ultimately to pastry specifically.
Yeah. So, I went to school for pastry. When I graduated college, I worked in pastry. And then I honestly, when I was working at Bouchon in Napa, the bakery and the bistro shared space together. So the bakery made all the bread and pastries for the bistro. And so I was making the plated desserts for dinner service every night, and I would have to finish the lemon tarts in the broiler every day on the line. And I was so into it. I was so into the rush and seeing everyone cook on the line. I mean, in high school, I worked at a restaurant. I worked the fryer and dishwasher, and I missed it. I missed like the rush of the line. And so, I made the switch and I liked it, but and I came to New York and worked at Gramercy Tavern, was mentored under my now partners at the business of radio. And I was a good cook. I was a good line cook, organized, efficient. But all my friends would be talking about, savory dishes they wanted to make. And all I wanted to talk about and all I dreamed about was pastries and ice cream I wanted to make and pies I wanted to make. And Miroslav was the pastry chef at Gramercy during the time. And I was always popping my head into the pastry room and like asking him questions and just really drawn to it. And I decided, to just go back. And funny enough, Howard and Rafiq were opening, when they were in the process of opening Rolo's, I reached out to Howard and I remember sitting down with them, in a meeting and being like, hey, like, do you guys need a pastry chef? And they only knew me as a savory line cook. And they had no idea that I went to school for pastry, that I worked pastry. And I remember Rafiq being like, do you know how to make ice cream? And I was like, sure do. And they took a chance and hired me as like the pastry chef. And I never looked back. That was a dream job until now. And now this is my current dream job.
Yeah, I'm really interested in like when you had the opportunity to be the opening pastry chef at Rolo's, like what kind of desserts were you making? And then how much of a shift do you think that was to be pivoting into the kind of like daytime bakery format?
Yeah. So, I mean, when we opened Rolo's, it was January of 2021. So it didn't open as a restaurant, right?
Oh, it was like the cafe era.
Yeah.
Those sandwiches.
Well, so those sandwiches became Radio Bakery sandwiches.
I know, because the tofu sandwich is like, I was obsessed with that. And then I couldn't find it for a while. And now I can find it again.
Exactly. And so, I mean, that is the reason why radio exists, right? Because Rolo's opened during the pandemic. They couldn't run it as a restaurant. I spent the majority of the summer of 2020 recipe testing ice creams and focaccia and cookies because we decided that like we would have to open as like a cafe grocery store. And it was so successful, right? The sandwiches, the bread, the cookies, we had the bolus back then. I don't know if you had that.
No, what is that?
It was, so Rafiq, one of my partners, he grew up with it in the Dutch Netherlands. It is basically like milk dough rolled in like dark muscovado sugar and cinnamon. And it's baked like hot and fast and then flipped over. And in the Netherlands, it's served with like a big schmear of butter. So it's like a cinnamon roll. And we served it for a bit at radio until we moved to like real kind of like American-esque cinnamon rolls. But yeah, I mean, so Rolo's opened as this grocery store cafe situation and it took off. And I was like single-handedly making everything for it. And then we were able to start doing outdoor dining. And so, there were a lot of transitions. It was a lot of changes. And then I started developing, more desserts. But we always knew, I mean, Rolo's is like simple, straightforward, but perfectly executed cooking, right? And so we knew that the desserts would have to be the same. Familiar, and just like really fucking delicious. And so, I think what was the first menu item? I don't even know. I think we started like with a brown butter tart. And then, I knew we wanted to have like a chocolate situation on the menu. And so the menu always stayed quite small, but with very distinct items. Always like a chocolate item, always a fruity item. And then we introduced this like Pavlova-esque type of item, and always with homemade ice creams. And so that really deeply influenced radio again, because a lot of the recipes that I used then, I still use today in like croissant type items. I mean, the brown butter custard from the Tart, that's like everyone's favorite filling when we do our apple croissant in the fall. And even like Rolo savory recipes, like my partner developed this mushroom lasagna for like Valentine's Day. And we made that filling is now our filling for our mushroom croissant at Radio. And it's just like, it's very cohesive.
Yeah, it's funny because I've eaten at both of these places, and I knew that like they were related, but I didn't necessarily see the through line. And it's interesting how like recipes can evolve and shift in that kind of way.
Yeah, I mean, that's the whole point, right? Like using your previous knowledge to work your way through and make it more cohesive. I mean, if there's one thing that I learned the most from Gramercy, it was seasoning, and it was seasoning with acid. I think that is what was so pivotal to me for working in restaurants, was that you don't see a lot in just pastry chefs is seasoning things properly with salt and acid or vinegar. And, all of the pastries at Radio get tasted and seasoned almost every day. The mushroom croissant we taste every day. If it needs more Maldon or if it needs more fig vinegar. Our peach croissant, we do a layer of like a sherry vinegar glaze on it. Our strawberry jam that we made this week, we finished with some tart vinegar. I think it's what really elevates Radio and what really helped me, like was a big learning curve for me.
Yeah, I think that really comes across. And when you're talking about croissant, I think someone listening might be picturing like the classic like French croissant or maybe like a stuffed almond croissant. But the croissants at Radio are not like that. They're almost like a cup of croissant dough that then has filling inside of it. Is that right?
Yeah. So when we developed Radio early on, we knew we wanted it to be like a croissant focused bakery. And by saying croissant, we just meant like croissant dough.
Laminated pastry.
Exactly. Laminated pastry. And, other places I had worked at would make two doughs, like croissant dough and then Danish dough. And the only difference in the Danish dough is that it usually had milk or eggs. Croissant dough typically is a lean dough and no eggs. And I remember talking to friends when we were developing all this stuff and being like, what? Do I need two recipes? That seems so silly. Like for just classic croissants and then, filled Danish type pastries. And a lot of people I talked to were like, not worth it. Like, not worth it. And so, yeah, we decided like to focus on one specific dough, laminated croissant dough, and turn it into as many different things as possible. Yeah. So consistency is like so important in any bakery, and like having one perfect dough and being able to make 10 different things out of it is a great thing for bottom line and for like creating lots of different items.
Yeah, I was going to ask about this because I feel like Radio, like you're always introducing new variations on things. And I would imagine it might be easier to do that if you know that the base recipe is consistent. But like what about the croissant makes it such a good vehicle for this kind of like riffing and experimentation?
Yeah, so when I developed the recipe for the croissant dough, I went through so many iterations. And honestly, if you look at all like croissant recipes, they're not that different. But I think what makes Radio's croissant dough different is has a good amount of salt in it, not too much sugar. We use two kinds of like pre-ferments for flavor. One is like just a 1-day pre-ferment where like flour and water and yeast get mixed and like develop flavor the night before. But then we also use our croissant like offcuts, and that one reduces waste, 2 helps with like extensibility of the dough, but 3 adds more flavor. But I think the biggest difference of our croissant dough that I notice, and like a lot of my industry friends like can tell the difference between our croissant and other croissants, is the flour that we use. We love Small Valley Milling bread flour. They're from like Lancaster, PA, and it's just so delicious. And I really think that makes the flavor very distinct, and just elevates just a classic croissant dough into something a little bit more tastier.
Yeah, I think it does really have that kind of like nuanced depth of flavor, and it means that you can have fruit and custard and all of these like sweet things, and that the resulting pastry isn't too sweet.
Yeah, I mean, that is one huge thing for us is like nothing should ever be too sweet. Big on balancing flavors.
Yeah, and Radio opened in 2023 in Greenpoint, and then y'all opened a second location in Prospect Heights just a couple of months ago. From your end of things, like, does your job get a lot harder when you go from one location to two?
You know what? It actually, it's funny. I mean, we've been very busy, so that my job has just been harder in that aspect. But it has been great because now there is like more people that are learning, and there's a lot more intel that is being shared. So like my sous chefs and manager at one location could be focusing on something and finding a new, better way to do it. And then they're teaching that to the other location, right? And so it's not like one bubble anymore. It's like they are different businesses, but we're sharing a lot of most of the same recipes and components. And it just has created a lot of ongoing, amazing conversations about how to make things better or how to, different ways of doing things. And I think it has made my job actually easier in the future, it's going to be easier because right now it's a little hard. But once we get going, because it has made the teams stronger. It has given them like more independence. Instead of me just focusing on one bakery, it has allowed like the bakery chef, like Zoe at Underhill, she has like completely stepped up and she's made the bakery her own. And I'm just there to support her. And it's like a really, really amazing thing to see and watch.
Yeah, you're building the bench.
Exactly.
I'm curious if the two bakeries feel similar in terms of like the crowd favorites, the demand, like, or are they kind of two separate versions of Radio?
Great question. I have like grappled with this for the past couple of months. They are pretty different.
Really?
Yeah. So I think our first location in Greenpoint is just smashingly busy all the time.
Yeah, the line, I think, has been the topic of much conversation and debate, like in food media, on Instagram, et cetera.
Yeah. The line. Look, we are as efficient as possible when moving people through the line, but the line can only go so fast because there's so much to see and there's so much to look at. And, we don't want to rush guests into having to choose, so fast. But, the lines, what makes the bakeries different is surprisingly at Greenpoint, it's a big push for sandwiches. Like the morning rush is insane. And I think
it's for sandwiches?
And yeah, so like the morning pastry rush, happens at like 8 a.m. But then the sandwich rush at 11 o'clock is crazy. People now know that we put the sandwiches out at 11 and there may be a line that forms outside, but it moves fast, especially during the week because we do get a lot of regulars. Like we have people that come in multiple times a day for like a coffee and a croissant in the morning and then like a sandwich later in the day. And Underhill is like, I don't know if it's because there's more variety in the neighborhood, but people are we're not selling as much sandwiches there as we are at our Greenpoint location. But we are selling a lot more pastries. And so it's just a little bit different, not in a bad way, but just the wants of the neighborhood is different.
That's really interesting. I'm being like armchair psychologist about this, but I wonder if like there's a different, like Greenpoint, I think has a lot of people who work from home or maybe they, work in the restaurant industry. So they're around in the day and not at night. And like people are kind of like trying to get their little treat lunch going more. Whereas maybe Prospect Heights, people are, commuting into work in the morning and stopping by or something like that. Does that resonate?
Yeah, we're definitely seeing that. definitely seeing like the work from home people during the week at Greenpoint. And then, Prospect Heights, it is like a lot of big boxes and families in the morning getting like a lot of pastries. The weekends at both locations is a lot of out-of-towners. The regulars kind of know to come during the week. We're busy during the week, but it's not like crazy lines.
Yeah. I feel like there's a lot of memes about like, doesn't anyone have a job? Like when you see the line of people. But I think the reality is like we live in a city where so many people have different kinds of jobs that happen at different times. That means that there's always going to be enough people who, if they want to make a pilgrimage to get a good pastry, like they're going to do it.
Yeah. And they are most likely going to be able to get it. I mean, I will say during the week, just because the weekend is truly out-of-towners. But again, my friends will also show up during the week. So I can't even, who's to say, but we're really lucky. We're really lucky that like people are excited enough to wait in a line for our pastries and our sandwiches and our bread. And it's been a lot to navigate, but it's been great.
Yeah. How do you feel about like, is there such a thing as too much hype? Like, do you feel like you need to be reaching a level that maybe is even impossible just because like there's so much conversation about it?
Oh gosh, the hype. When people like ask like the hype bakery, the viral things, I just like, I just cringe because radio was never meant to be. Never in my wildest dreams did I think it was gonna be this crazy busy or hyped or viral, right? Like, it was just a dream for me to open a bakery in New York. Like, I was lucky enough for that. And then, to get like the notoriety and to see how excited people are. And, it's just the way of the world now that like you do something really well and then it like takes off. And then you're on TikTok and Instagram and it's harder to sell them on it after that, right? But do I think we could like there's a level that is like we want to reach? I am fine where we are, I guess, if that's the question. If anything, like I want to like take a couple notches down.
Yeah. I mean, I will say like, I don't know why I'm saying it's not your fault because it's no one's fault. But like it's not like the Rainbow Bagel of 2010 that was made specifically to pop on Instagram. Like you're not doing things because they look super crazy. You're just executing at a really high level. And I think that there's just a lot of interest around pastry and baked goods in New York in general right now.
Yeah. I mean, for sure. And that is what I think that is what has made like the hype thing more like manageable for me is that yeah, we're not making anything like crazy. We're just executing at a high level and making delicious things that people want to eat. And like, if people want to line up for it, please, great, thank you. But like, we're not going out of our way to make like an Instagram-worthy croissant. And, it has been amazing to see like how many bakeries have opened basically during the pandemic, and a lot of them came from restaurants, right? Laurel came from a restaurant. Now I'm like blinking, but
well, you mentioned Miro before, and like Honey's Bakery that opened recently. Like they certainly have a lot of lines and demand. Libre from Lucy,
yes,
all of those spots,
and it's because they do things really well, and like. It is so exciting to be a baker in the city right now. It's so exciting to be a bakery owner in the city right now. I think that the community is like just keeps growing. And, I am always reaching out to owners and friends and talking and seeing what they're making. And it's a very good thing. I mean, everyone says like New York is so competitive. And like, of course it is. But being influenced by others and like learning from others is also amazing. And I think a lot of the bakers and the owners in the city are very influenced by each other right now. And it feels like almost very collaborative.
Yeah, and I think also it speaks to like the way that a pastry can fit into somebody's day. Like it's not as expensive as a whole meal out. You could do a little pastry crawl and hit up 3 places that are in your neighborhood. And it kind of can be like a rising tide lifting all boats situation.
Yes, all rising tides. I love that.
Yeah. I wonder also like when you're developing the menu, I know that like you're not making things because they're going to go viral, but like do you ever know, oh, this is going to be really popular?
You know, some things, yes. Other things are always a surprise. I mean, when we made like the original menu at radio, we knew that we wanted specific flavors and shapes and combinations, right? And so like we wanted a citrusy thing. So that was the morning bun. We wanted a savory thing. That was the pretzel bear claw and the scallion sesame twist. We wanted a cinnamon thing, the cinnamon roll. You know, like, so we had like very distinct categories of what we wanted to, you know, for everything to fit into. And then, you know, the seasonal items, I think because they change so much, they are always like a big hit. But, you know, even like, I guess maybe one of the most surprising things that was a really big hit was last year we decided to do hot cross buns.
Yeah.
And, you know, I remember posting on Instagram and like not really getting a lot of traction on it. And the weekend of Easter came and people like freaked out over them.
They're very cute.
Yeah, they're cute, but I was like, this wasn't what I expected, right? And then like this year we were like, they're way too much work and we can't do it. But a lot of people, one of the most surprising things I think that still is like beloved by a lot is the tofu sandwich. And it's not exactly what we had at Rolo's, but like people are always surprised by like how delicious it is, right? But for the most part, I think you know, the items that like are the most popular and loved by all are typically the rotating seasonal specials. I think just because they're unique.
Yeah, and I think it's like often like the first taste of the new produce. Like sometimes you guys get it before like at the Fort Greene Farmers Market. It's like 3 weeks behind the Grand Army one.
Yeah.
Now I'm just complaining. But like I still haven't been able to buy fresh strawberries at the market. But I know that like all of the bakeries around the city that, you know, you have your farmers that are delivering to you, whatever, like you guys kind of can really get in there and have this first taste of the season. And I think in a place like New York that has really strict seasons, like that's just very exciting.
Oh, yeah. And, you know, and you do see like the first bakery, you know, like one of the bakeries posts and then like everyone quickly it like follows.
Yeah, like who has rhubarb first?
Yeah. It's really funny, but it's also like that's exactly what I'm talking about is like we are all very much in this together, like all the bakeries in New York City. And like, you know, we all want to use the same great products and like, but we're all doing something different from it. And it's great to see who is making what.
Yeah, I'm curious if you can speak to it all, like what you're looking forward to making with summer produce now that it's starting to come in.
Yeah, great question. I know for sure. So last year we ran this tomato croissant that kind of, did you try it?
No, but I'm like grinning
it.
right now because I saw this and I was like, this looks so good. And I just am not an early riser, Kelly, so it's hard for me.
Okay, fine. I mean, we're at a point where we're able to make more.
Okay, I'll come back. I'll set an alarm for this.
Yeah.
Will you explain it? Because it looks crazy.
So we tested this. I tested this a lot last year. We knew we wanted to do something with tomatoes. And I knew, you know, we always do different kind of like fillings for the croissants. And the original idea was like at Rolo's, we used to make these gougères, which is like a pâte à choux filling, typically with cheese. And so I was like, oh, like gougère tomatoes, that would be fucking delicious. We tried this filling. It was a little bit too cloying and like tough of a filling in the croissants. And then started thinking, and we were like, like a savory souffle kind of filling. Like, again, using like my culinary experience and thinking about, you know, things that would work. And so we made like this Parmesan souffle filling and like not a typical souffle filling, like no whipping the egg whites, right? Because we don't need the height. We just need like a custard, like a savory custard. And so that's what we created, like a savory Parmesan custard. And then we're cutting like obviously the best of the best tomatoes from like Lancaster or like New York farms. They're getting seasoned very simply, you know, with olive oil and salt and pepper, blasted in the oven, and it comes out and it's like it is, I can't even describe how good it is. It's like so simple, like a savory Parmesan custard and like a roasted tomato that's still so juicy and finished with like a little bit of fresh olive oil and thyme. And it's like a pizza, but like not, and crunchy and slightly sweet from the tomato and savory from the Parmesan. That's definitely going to make a comeback. People ask about that all year round, and we're like, well, it's only as good as the summer tomatoes.
Yeah, I think it hits on like so many things that are popular right now, which is, laminated pastry, really good peak season tomatoes, savory baked goods, which I think have been like increasingly popping up around places, and it all is together in one package. So of course people are going to want it.
Yeah, I mean, that is probably definitely going to happen at both locations. I think right now we just debuted like a blueberry lime coconut situation, which was also inspired by Rolo's. I used to make a coconut lime sorbet, which was like coconut milk steeped with, macroot lime leaves and lots of lime juice. And we basically made that into a pastry cream. We seasoned fresh blueberries from Lancaster with lime juice and lots of lime zest, and it's just like almost like fruity pebble vibes. I'm already seeing peaches and nectarines pop up, which we did do that last year, and we may have to bring it back.
Yeah, I did have the peach croissant last summer, and it was beautiful. Yeah,
it's beautiful. It's a stunner, but it's also like, I think it's one of my friend's favorite pastries that we do. He loves the rhubarb, but he also loves the peach because it's just like so juicy, and you get like a whole half of a peach and custard, but again, it's seasoned with like a little bit of like sherry vinegar to like help with that acid, but it really, like, all of these items are only as good as the produce that we can get in. And so like people start asking like earlier and earlier every year, like, are you going to bring this back? When are you going to have this? And I'm like, we got to wait till the produce is like peak.
Yeah, I mean, I appreciate your restraint because I do think like so much of our current moment in culture where you can buy like any fruit at the grocery store year round, like it makes you crave things, and I totally get that. But I do think some things are better when you wait for them to be like at their very best.
100%. We're trying to teach everyone that.
Yeah, people are able to follow along with the seasons. I already am asking my guys at the farmers market when they're going to get tomatoes or things like that. But I guess asking your local bakery is another way to figure it out.
It is. Because we're getting, every week we get sheets from the market that say like what's in season.
Yeah, I think the Green Market has a map on the website that says like what's in season, and it's one of my bookmarks on my computer because I'm from LA originally, so the way that I think things should be, I've had to adjust over time.
Yeah, New York is very different than LA for the food.
It's okay. Well, I know you just expanded to a second location, so I don't mean to be pushing forward, but I'm curious if you have any plans for like the future of radio or like any other projects that you want to share.
The future of radio. I think right now we're just trying to, meet the demand at our current locations. We have already we're outgrowing both locations like very quickly, especially Greenpoint. I think that location is always going to be the busiest as like the OG. We're trying, and like hopefully in the future we're trying to like expand that store a little bit to make it a little bit bigger so we can produce more. At Underhill, we've already outgrown that space. So we have plans on like kind of like doing some renovations, and hopefully so we can just produce a little bit more or just have more room for like elbow room.
Yeah. Can you speak to like roughly like how much pastry are you making at both locations every day or every week?
Yeah. So on any given like day, like weekday, we'll sell between like 600 and 800 croissant-based pastries. It's crazy. And then like sandwiches, between like 600 and 700 sandwiches.
So is that per location?
That's per location.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And we're talking like the space, like India Street is like 1,100 square feet. And Underhill is a little bit more than that. But we are bursting at the seams. On the weekends, like Mother's Day weekend, we sold over 1,000 croissant-based pastries a day. And between like 700 and 800 sandwiches. It blows my mind every day.
I'm trying to picture like how you physically store that much stuff at once.
It's tight. It's tight. The storage is tight. The staffing is tight. I mean, we have staff starting at 4 a.m. and the morning team comes in at 4 a.m. Sandwich team comes in at 7, and then like bread and croissant production come in at 10 a.m. So like we had to really spread out the staffing so that everyone's like has some space, and it has worked out for us. But we're pushing capacity hard at both locations.
I can't even picture how much butter you must go through in a week.
A lot.
Yeah.
A lot of butter, a lot of flour, a lot of eggs. It's crazy. It's a beauty of a thing to behold. Like the organization of it is amazing, and that's really the only way that we can do this is by like beautifully organizing and like talking to the bakers, and like everyone's pushing hard every single day.
Yeah. I can imagine. How does it feel for you to just kind of like step back and look at the scale of what you've built?
Oh, it's a pinch me moment all the time. I tell people this, I never, ever thought I would open a bakery in New York City. I'm from like Cleveland, Ohio. My parents wanted me to like move back and open a bakery restaurant there. And instead, I was lucky enough to open one in New York City. And I am very proud. I am very proud. But I'm also very proud and happy for everyone that I am working side by side with. And because I couldn't do this without them. I mean, my teams are working so hard, and like the second radio wouldn't exist if we didn't have like amazing management and amazing bakers, right? And so I try and like, I don't do it enough, but I do try and step back and like look at the big picture and see how amazing it is and how beautiful a thing it is, and appreciate everything and everyone that's involved.
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad that you do that at least sometime. And I think speaking with you just about the scale of everything, it really is impressive. And, also like great that you would come in on your day off and talk to me about it.
Oh, I love talking food. I love talking food all the time.
Okay, well, I'm going to have you play rapid fire to close then. I'm going to give you some questions. You'll give me the first answer that comes into your head.
Okay, let's do it.
Okay, your favorite item in the pastry case at Radio right now?
The blueberry coconut lime croissant.
Okay, and then your favorite sandwich?
Tofu sandwich.
The most difficult recipe at Radio to perfect so far?
Honestly, the croissant, but the offshoot of that is like the vanilla custard croissant that we had for a bit. We have gone through so many iterations and testing of it, and it's still not perfect, but it is as perfect as it can be. It's not on the menu right now. It was, but then it was for a minute. But I would say the vanilla custard croissant.
Yeah. Okay, your favorite store-bought ice cream?
Jenny's ice cream, also from Ohio. Her almond brown butter.
Yeah. Your favorite, like, kind of savory pastry in general?
Ooh, probably a like ham and cheese version of a croissant.
One of your favorite bakeries in New York that's not your own?
Okay, I might get some flack for this, but I am a cake girl through and through. I will choose a slice of cake over a croissant. So Mia's Bakery in Brooklyn is...
Oh, it's so good.
It's so good. Their cakes are... I've had all the chocolate cakes. I'm a chocolate cake lover.
Okay, wait, this reminds me that I didn't even ask you about like cake. Like, do you ever do cake at Radio, and would you ever?
No cake at Radio.
Okay.
We decided to be a very distinct croissants, sandwiches, bread.
Yeah.
And cake doesn't fit into it. Not to say that we don't try putting cake in as many croissants as possible. We love putting cake in like our special croissants, but I mean, we're at capacity with croissants anyways, and I love eating cake. I don't love making it, and it's definitely... People are very good at making cakes. I'm not, and so I'm staying to my croissant lane.
Yeah, keep cake for your consumption and enjoyment.
Yes.
Your favorite, like, quick dinner in New York restaurant?
Chef Katsu in Clinton Hill, Fort Greene. They do like rice bowls with, salmon or pork. And it's just like so delicious and so well done.
Yeah.
10 out of 10.
I like it there. Your favorite like special occasion New York restaurant?
Don Angie. Every time. Which, funny enough, Angie Rito, one of the owners, we went to the same high school, both grew up in Cleveland.
No way.
Yeah, her sister was in my graduating class. So loved Don Angie. My parents love it there. We go there when we can.
What was your high school mascot?
Oh, God. The Padua Bruin, which was, apparently it was a neutered bear.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know.
Go Bruins, I guess.
Yeah, go Bruins.
Something that you will never make from scratch.
Oh, okay. This is a hard question because I am like fully believe in making everything from scratch. I guess it would have to be like chocolate chips.
Okay.
I don't know.
Ketchup? Would you make ketchup?
Oh, yeah. No, I would not make ketchup. At Gramercy Tavern, we did. And it was delicious, but it wasn't ketchup. Like Heinz is it.
They've got it down.
They've got it down.
Okay, final question. A fictional food scene, like from a book or a movie or something made up that you wish you could magically eat in real life?
Gotta say, any and all of the feasts in Harry Potter.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I mean, when that came to life in the movies, I was like, this is everything I've always wanted. Like all the cakes and the special items and like just so fun and so beautiful and I think probably very tasty.
Yeah, it's not quite the same as like the fully stacked pastry case at Radio when you open, but I feel like maybe you're kind of going along that line and trying to have a fully stocked table somewhat.
That's exactly it. Like we always wanted people to come in and see like just like an abundance of like so much pastries and savory and sandwiches. And yeah, I think first thing in the morning, we got that down.
Yeah, 8 a.m.?
7:30.
7:30. Okay, well, I will see you at 7:30 at Radio very soon, Kelly. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
This is Taste is hosted and produced by Matt Rodbard and me, Eliza Abarbanel. The show is edited by lead producer Clayton Gumbert and supervised by Pat Stango, Director of Media Production and Development at Penguin Random House. Thanks to Shalia Harris and the production team at Penguin Random House. Theme music by Steve Rydell, logo and guest illustrations by Ellie Skurzat. Visit Taste online at tastecooking.com and make sure to subscribe to our newsletter to keep updated on all cool things in the world of taste.